Your phone buzzes at 11:47 p.m. It's just a text. Your heart rate jumps 20 beats before you've even unlocked the screen. You already know, logically, that it is probably nothing. Your body does not care what you know. That jolt has a name, and it is older than fire, older than language, older than the concept of a Tuesday. It comes from a walnut-sized cluster of neurons sitting just behind your eyes, and it has been running the exact same program for roughly 200,000 years. Tonight, it has decided that a text message might be a leopard. Here's the part nobody tells you. That panicky, overreacting, catastrophizing corner of your brain is not broken. It is the entire reason you exist to read this sentence in the first place. Stick around, because by the end, you're going to learn that the calmest members of your ancestral tribe are not technically your ancestors. The anxious ones won every single time for 200,000 years straight. And that has some deeply uncomfortable implications for the way you are living right now. Let's go back, not to your last performance review, further than that, 200,000 years, give or take, to a small population of primates wandering the East African savanna, doing what primates mostly do, which is worrying constantly about being eaten. You share roughly 98% of your DNA with chimpanzees. You also share something a little less flattering, a nervous system built almost entirely around detecting threats before they detect you. Primatologist Franz de Waal spent decades observing wild chimp troops, and one pattern became obvious fast. The chimps who lived long enough to pass on their genes were rarely the bold ones. They were the ones who flinched first and asked questions later.
Evolution does not reward bravery. It rewards paranoia that happens to be correct often enough. Picture two members of that same ancestral group. One hears a snapped twig in the tall grass and keeps eating, unbothered, confident, relaxed. The other hears the same twig and is already 3 trees away, heart hammering, before anyone else has looked up. 99 times out of 100, it really was just wind. But evolution does not care about batting averages. It only cares about the one time it wasn't wind. The relaxed one only has to be wrong once. The anxious one gets to be wrong constantly and still make it to breakfast. Now, consider the actual organ responsible for ruining your Sunday night, your amygdala. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux built an entire career mapping this thing, and what he found is almost insulting in its simplicity. The amygdala does not wait for your logical brain to weigh in on anything. It hijacks the body first and requests permission later. A rustle in tall grass? A shadow at the door? A message left on read for 6 hours with no reply? Same circuit lights up. Same flood of cortisol. Same racing heart. Whether the threat is a predator crouched in the reeds or a group chat that has gone suspiciously silent. Why would evolution build something so trigger-happy? Because a false alarm costs you almost nothing. A missed real threat costs you everything, permanently, with zero opportunity to learn from the mistake afterward. Now, sit with that for a second, because it is about to explain most of your bad days. This is where it gets interesting, and honestly, a little darkly funny. Psychiatrist Randolph Nesse calls this the smoke detector principle. A good smoke detector is not the one that only screams during an actual fire. It is the one that also screams when you make toast a little too aggressively. The cost of that false alarm, mild annoyance, maybe a singed eyebrow, is nothing compared to the cost of a smoke detector that stays quiet during a real fire because it was trying too hard to be precise. Your anxiety is built exactly like that detector. It is calibrated on purpose to overreact. Evolution did not hand you a precision instrument. It handed you a smoke detector with the sensitivity dial cranked all the way to maximum, because the ancestors carrying that oversensitive dial are the ones who noticed the leopard early enough to actually survive it. The ancestors with the well-calibrated, relaxed nervous systems noticed the leopard too, just slightly too late to mention it to anyone. You've actually lived this exact trade-off in your own kitchen. Your smoke detector shrieks every single time you sear a steak, and it is technically wrong almost every time it goes off. You do not, in response, disconnect it and throw it in a drawer.
You put up with 1,000 false alarms because the one time it is right, it is the only thing standing between you and a very bad night. Your nervous system made the same calculation 200,000 years before anyone had heard of a kitchen.
There's a second layer to this, and it might sting a little. It is not only predators your ancestors were built to fear. It is you, specifically other people. For most of human history, getting kicked out of your tribe was not an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. There was no solo human era, no lone wolf chapter of prehistory. Alone meant undefended, unfed, and almost certainly dead within weeks. So your brain built a second, equally sensitive alarm system wired entirely around social threat, disapproval, embarrassment, being talked about behind your back, being quietly left out of the group heading to the watering hole. That fear of public speaking you have, the one that makes your palms sweat before a work presentation, is not really about public speaking. It is 200,000 years of your nervous system treating a silent, judging audience exactly like a circle of tribe members deciding in real time whether you are still worth feeding.
Here's your open loop again, the one from the very beginning. I told you the calm ones lost. Let's actually climb inside that idea, because it explains almost everything currently wrong with your week. Your ancestors' threat system had one job, and crucially, it had a working off switch. The leopard leaves, cortisol clears the bloodstream within minutes, heart rate drops, and everyone goes back to eating berries like nothing happened. The threat was loud, but it was also brief. Your threats are not brief. Your threats are open browser tabs, and somebody figured that out.
Every red notification dot on your phone is engineered deliberately to trip the exact same ancient circuit as a rustle in the grass. It says, something might be wrong. Check now. Unknown threat detected.
There is always one more headline, one more comment, one more thing to check, which means the part of you built for brief, occasional emergencies is now getting pinged constantly, all day, by design. The email that might contain criticism, the group chat that went suspiciously quiet at 4 p.m. and still hasn't picked back up, the strange chest twinge you looked up online at 2 in the morning and immediately regretted looking up. None of these are leopards. All of them get filed under leopard because your amygdala does not do nuance, and it definitely does not check your calendar to see whether the crisis has actually passed. Endocrinologist Robert Sapolsky spent decades studying stress hormones, first in wild baboons, later in humans, and made an observation that deserves to be printed on a coffee mug. A zebra gets chased by a lion, and the moment the chase ends, its stress hormones reset almost instantly, and it is back to grazing within minutes, apparently unbothered. A human gets chased by an idea of a lion, a bad email, a mortgage payment, a comment section, and the chase never really ends because the threat lives entirely inside imagination, and imagination has never once learned how to put itself to bed at a reasonable hour.
So what exactly do you do with a smoke detector you cannot unplug? You do not disable it. You cannot disable it. And please stop trying to reason with it at 3 in the morning. It does not negotiate, and it has never once read a self-help book in its life.
What you can do is understand what the alarm is actually for. Anxiety is not a malfunction. It is a messenger arriving breathless at a building that burned down decades ago, still clutching the exact same urgent memo, still 100% convinced the fire is happening right now, this instant, tonight, again. This is also quietly why willpower alone never fixes it.
You cannot out-argue a smoke detector. Telling your anxious brain to relax using pure logic is like yelling at the alarm to stop screaming while the toast is still smoking. It's not listening for reasons, it's listening for smoke.
What actually helps is closer to walking calmly to the kitchen, checking the pan, and letting the alarm see for itself that the building is, in fact, still standing, slowly, every time, until the messenger starts to trust you a little more.
And here is the twist I promised you at the very beginning. The anxious ones did not just survive. They built everything that came after them. The tribe member who could not stop scanning the tree line was the same one who noticed the storm rolling in a day early.
who remembered precisely where the water source was during the bad drought, who woke the whole camp before the fire reached the tents.
Worry, traced all the way back to its evolutionary root, is love wearing the costume of dread. It is your ancestors' method for caring about tomorrow before tomorrow has even arrived.
That doesn't make the 11:47 p.m. buzzing feel any better in the moment, and I'm not going to pretend that it does. But maybe next time your chest tightens over something that will not matter in 6 months, you can recognize the actual shape of what is happening to you. That is not you being broken. That is not a flaw in your design. It is the design working exactly as specified, just several thousand years out of date, still running on a planet that no longer has leopards in the grass, but somehow found new ones anyway. That is a 200,000-year-old smoke detector, still faithfully, uselessly, beautifully doing its job.
Your phone just buzzed again. It is still, statistically, almost certainly nothing. Your body still does not care what you know.